that things appear distinct and yet caused in a dream. Accordingly, purity, understood as a positive description of the way things exist on the basis of their ultimate lack of intrinsic reality, permits the equation of the path with the goal. The means of achieving awakening thus ultimately consists of nothing but identifying one's body, speech, and mind with the awakened state itself, here represented by the mandala. The appearance of self and environment as impure and bewilderingly diverse is a product of ignorance manifesting as discursive thought. The cure for this is precisely the knowledge that things are otherwise, understood not discursive and intellectually, but realized through a transcendent gnosis, or a lokatara jnana, or instantaneous awakening, ekashana abhisambodha, to reality. Rongzom, following the classical Vajrayana formulation, understands this transformation as occurring through the medium of the mandala. And I quote him again, "Since all things are pure through their reality is not even slightly impure. Body, speech, and mind have purity as their reality. Purity is awakening, and through purity, body, speech, and mind, which are differentiated, become inseparable and unelaborated, and thus should be understood to be the mandala of the adamantine body, speech, and mind, since it is completely pervasive." Tantric visualization implies an understanding of reality as not solid and unpliable, but rather transformable and deeply interrelated to one's own body, speech, and mind and their concomitant powers, which give rise to one's perception of reality. It thus involves a process of active imagination coupled with the discipline of meditative concentration, samadhi, without which the visualization has no power, and yogic techniques such as breath control that enrich and empower the meditative experience. It is based upon the assumption of a fundamental link between cause and effect, such that the attainment of the latter requires a similar cause. Buddhahood is thus attained through a process of identifying oneself, mentally, verbally, and physically, with the Buddha. This process is typically called by the Tibetans deity yoga, Lai Naljor, or in the case of the Sarva Rahasa Nama Tantra Raja, the Yiche Mimi Suishang Mingyi Dajiao Wang Yigui, Buddha Yoga, which this text describes as follows. If one meditates upon joining with the Buddhas, one by that means becomes identical to the Buddhas. All Buddhas are alike in nature in that they arise from concentration and gnosis. Without the practice of Buddha Yoga, the yogi will not attain Buddhahood. According to the Geluk Tibetan tradition, the meditations which might be characterized as Buddha Yoga or Deity Yoga have two aspects: the cultivation of both divine pride of oneself as a deity and the vision or vivid appearance of one's environment as a divine environment. The current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, has described them as follows. Divine pride protects one from the ordinary, and divine vivid appearance protects one from ordinary appearances. Whatever appears to the senses is viewed as the sport of a deity. For instance, whatever forms are seen are viewed as emanations of a deity, and whatever sounds are heard are viewed as the mantras of a deity. One is thereby protected from ordinary appearances, and through this transformation of attitude, the pride of being a deity emerges. Such protection of mind, together with its attendant pledges and vows, is called the practice of mantra. The divine pride of tantric practice differs from ordinary pride in that, unlike the latter, it does not imagine a false distinction between subject and object, self and other, glorifying the former at the expense of the latter. Instead, it involves the reimagination of both self and other as deities, and one's environment as a divine deity palace that is schematically represented by a mandala. This practice is necessarily built upon the foundation of an awareness of both subjective and objective emptiness. In other words, selflessness, along with the idea that all of the objects of one's experience are also empty of intrinsic reality. For if one still imagines that there are an intrinsically real subject and an intrinsically real objects, it is impossible to rise beyond the level of ordinary, gross perceptions of reality. This point is clearly made in the Sarva Rahasya Tantra, which begins with what we might term a statement of the tantric ethos. If one does not regard sentient beings as having definite bodies, produced as they are from the five elements, And if one also does not ascertain a definite mind, then meditate on the Buddhas in this way also. If a great hero desires to bow down to the Buddha, he or she should bow down to his or her own gnosis. The Buddha's gnosis and one's own have the same original source. Their secret nature is that they exist in a non-dual fashion. If one understands that all things arise selflessly, then that which arises is non-dual gnosis. As liberation is attained amidst both the desirable and the undesirable, then there is nothing to which one should not bow down. Things have neither arisen nor will they arise. Arising and declining, they do not abide. Contemplating the Buddhas thus, bow down to your own gnosis of reality. In other words, from this perspective, there's everything that exists, ourselves, all beings, everything we encounter, are equal in nature to the Buddha, and therefore all deserve equal respect. I'll pause here for translation again.
这个我们进入到第二节，第二节是